Hello, authors, book lovers, and storytellers. Welcome to another Reader's Magnet featured author interview. My name is Mark, and I am your host for today. And together with me is one of the Reader's Magnet featured authors that is here with us to share his journey as an author and share the inspiration behind his book. We have LeRoy Cossette. Hi, LeRoy. How are you today?
I'm doing good. And how are you doing?
I'm doing great as well. Thank you for asking, Leroy. I just want to thank you for attending our interview today, and we're so happy to have you here. Also, we are really glad that you chose our platform, Reader's Magnet, to share your story with the world. And to be honest with you, Leroy, I'm really, really excited to have this interview with you because I can't wait to know more about your book, American Insanity. But before all of that, Leroy, kindly introduce yourself first.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to let readers know about my new book, American Insanity. About myself, well, I'm a Marine Corps combat veteran who served in Vietnam. I
Mhm,
spent 29 years with the Department of Veterans Affairs as a healthcare administrator. The
mhm,
last 11 years of that 29 years, I worked at VA headquarters in Washington, D.C., working closely with members of Congress and the White House staff. It was during these 11 years that I began to really learn about the workings of Washington, D.C. bureaucracy. I went to Washington very naive about our federal government,
mhm,
believing, like many, that those who were representing us were honorable people who had our
mhm.
best interests at heart. But it didn't take long before I realized that most of those that we elected were only there to serve their own best interests. I have served,
Unfortunately.
yes, indeed. I have served two-year terms as a township councilman. This is when
Wow.
I learned that local government can be as corrupt as all the other levels of government.
Mhm. Wow.
These experiences led me to become obsessed with the workings of politics. And I
Mm.
now spend every day reading and researching political corruption and ineptness within our government. And then I write political op ed articles about that government corruption. I am active with the Convention of States movement, both as a district captain and a content writer. I do this in
Mhm.
hopes of being a part of the effort to rein in our out of control government. So
Well,
that's
so basic.
about me.
All right. Wow. So basically, I'm talking to like a superhuman here in front of me because, I really appreciate the fact that you are really helping the community, Leroy, to open our eyes with this type of content because I believe some or not most of us are really blinded with those politicians that, are promising us false hopes. And I believe that this book, American Insanity, will help us wake awake be awakened of this type of government.
Yeah.
Yeah, to proceed, Leroy, why is the title American Insanity? Please let us explain.
I chose the title American Insanity because I felt that it best describes all of the insanity occurring within our federal government, within the
Hmm.
current generation of young adults, and within our society overall. I wanted a title that represented the insanity of our unconstitutional and bloated federal bureaucracy and all
Hmm.
the insane unconstitutional atrocities the government is committing against those it was created to serve.
All right, that explains. That explains. Actually, the when you told me about what the context of the book, that really explains why the title is American Insanity. Now, my next question, Leroy, what inspired or what triggered you to write this book?
I wrote American Insanity to help shed some light on the extent to which the federal government is abusing its power and the extent to which they are infringing on our constitutional rights, information mostly unknown to the general public because our mainstream news media has become so political to the point that they are failing to serve the purpose and obligation as intended by the founding fathers, which is to be a watchdog over government by staying neutral in their republic and in their reporting, and
Mm-hmm.
to bring that information to the attention of the people who, because of that failed news media, are not really aware of the truth about our government, and to the point of the unfortunate truth about how citizens of this country have been enabling this corruption.
Do you think that the media were paid for by the this corrupt um government, or is it just because they are just blinded or doesn't know what's really happening behind those government?
Well, I think the general media
Mm-hmm.
um, have been politicalized, um, and the owners and editors of those medias are very uh,
Lows.
never narrative minded.
Mm,
Oh, and
okay.
so they're trying to um, push whatever narrative the government in power wants them to push, which makes
Mm-hmm.
it very unfair to the people that they're supposed to be informing.
Exactly. I need to agree with that. Now, I believe that you already told us that your book, American Sanity, tackles more about, the political issues and, government and things like that about America. Now, is there any other issues that your book tackle or, talk about?
My book talks about a lot of issues. It
I
actually
can
has
see.
23 chapters in
Mm,
which I address a lot of aspects of the insanity within our government. And
mm-hmm,
having been a part of the Washington bureaucracy, better known as the swamp, and being
mm-hmm,
very familiar in how the swamp works, I address at length the Washington bureaucracy that controls our everyday lives. And more importantly, I speak about how and why it is the swamp, not Congress, which governs the United States. I include chapters in which I give a brief history of the creation of the Constitution, as well as include the Constitution and affixed amendments in their
mm-hmm,
entirety. Why?
mm-hmm,
Because I know that the vast majority of Americans have never read our Constitution.
mm-hmm.
Therefore, they don't even realize what God-given constitutional rights they have.
I get that.
I I also address the level of denigration of our Constitution caused by Supreme Court decision and the outright ignoring of our Constitution by our corrupt government. I
Mm-hmm,
also have chapters in which I lay out how the federal government has been steadily overreaching its constitutional authority, how and why power hungry Washington elitists have changed our sovereign states into being nothing more than submissive subjects to the federal government dictates,
mm-hmm,
which is contrary to the Constitution.
mm-hmm,
I go on to lay out the impact that our failed public school system is having on the future of our children and the
mm-hmm,
future of our constitutional republic. I
mm-hmm,
talk about the lies that are being put out there about our so called secure southern borders and the
mm-hmm,
impact this is having on communities across the countries. I explain how insane our national debt it has become, how we got to this point, and what this means to the average American household. In other chapters, I lay out the extent to which our government is willing to go in order
mm-hmm,
to silence and disarm citizens with opposing viewpoints, how and why our two party political system is failing, Americans' insane shift from capitalism towards socialism, and the
Mm-hmm.
attempts being made by the Washington elitists to push America towards a globalist nation, and what all of this would mean for our constitutional rights and our constitutional republic.
Wow, the fact that your book tackles a lot of topics like that, Leroy, doesn't mean that would make your book American Insanity a general book for all of the countries' insanity, government insanity, and that is really the fact that this would help us open our eyes really matters a lot, and I can see that the book's really important to the public especially. Now, the fact that you have all of those topics mentioned on your book, do you provide any solutions for those problems?
Yes, I do. The last two chapters are dedicated to addressing the only real solutions available to our country in order to save our constitutional republic. For
Mm-hmm.
example, within those two chapters, I explain two of those solutions, one of which is the convening of a convention of states under Article 5 of the Constitution. And the other example is what needs to be done to assure election integrity.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Thank you so much for that, Leroy. Now, the fact that you this book tackles a lot of serious topic, I'm really wondering how long did you write this book?
It took me about 8 months, maybe 9 months of
Oh, wow.
research and then writing about what I learned and my
Mm-hmm.
viewpoints of that information. I did
Mm-hmm.
incorporate many of the op ed articles I had written over the past 3 years, which did help me move forward quicker. Otherwise, it would have probably taken me
Mm-hmm.
even longer. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, it was writing the articles that inspired me to write this book. And just to let everyone know, I'm currently working on my next book, which
Oh,
is going
wow.
to be titled "Government Gone Rogue." I'm in the very early stages of the book, but hope to have it published within the next 6 or 7 months.
Okay, knowing the fact that you only needed around 8 months to create the book, it's really impressive, Leroy. The fact that I was actually expecting a lot more, maybe 2 years or 1 year, since the book tackles a lot of very serious topic. Now, the fact that your upcoming book is something about government as well, what do you think is the difference between the two book?
Um, in the next book, I'm going to talk about how the government has totally absurd the Constitution and how they're trying to um, turn we the people
Mm-hmm.
uh, into subjects
Mm-hmm.
as if they're royalty rather than they're serving us as was intended by the Constitution. Um,
Mm.
and I'm going to go into a lot more um, government corruption
Mhm.
because there seems to be no end to the corruption
Mhm.
that
Actually.
you can find and write about.
Mhm. I get that. I get that. All right, Leroy, I think I have asked all the questions I prepared. But for the last time, do you have any closing remarks?
Yes, I do. I would like to
Please.
close by saying that there's a lot to learn about the
Mhm.
extent of corruption and the ineptness within our federal government. And I
Mhm.
believe the reader will finish reading this book with a clearer understanding of just how deep that corruption really goes and why and how they can and must become involved if we are to save our republic. I hope
Mhm.
readers will seriously consider buying a copy of American Insanity to learn the real extent to which our government and news media are failing our republic and just how much people really don't realize what is going on within our federal government. Finally, I want to ask everyone to please visit my website at americaninsanity.org. That's Americaninsanity, one word, .org, for the links to purchasing my book. Or if they want to go straight to the links, those links are American Insanity by LeRoy Cossette at Book Baby Bookshop. For Barnes and Noble, it's barnesandnoble.com. And then in the search box, enter American Insanity by LeRoy Cossette. For Amazon purchases, go to amazon.com. And again, in the search box, enter American Insanity by LeRoy Cossette. With that, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to listen and view this video. And again, I hope you'll seriously consider um, looking into my book.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Leroy. We are so happy to, have this interview with you. Thank you so much for your time. Okay. So, yes, everyone, that's Leroy Cossette, the author of the book American Insanity. The book is available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And also, please visit his website that is www.americaninsanity.org. Again, thank you so much, Leroy Cossette. As we say it here at Reader's Magnet, we share your story with the world. Goodbye, Leroy.
Goodbye
Thank
and
you.
thank you.